Hello, and welcome to the Spiritual Uprising podcast, the podcast designed to inspire women and men to rise up and out of the life they've been told to live and step into the life they were truly meant to live. I'm your host, Amanda Campbell, and this is episode 5, where we are talking about spiritual awakening. What is a spiritual awakening? How to know if you're going through one? And a long list of symptoms that you may be experiencing when you're going through a spiritual awakening. But I'm not just going to leave you hanging and give you a list of like 75 things and call it a day, because you can literally find a list anywhere on YouTube, on blogs, whatever. I'm actually going to talk about what a spiritual awakening is and the pros and cons to it. But before we get into that, this is the very first episode of 2020, so Happy New Year to everyone. I'm wishing you all the best, all health and happiness in 2020, and I hope you have an amazing year. So, let's talk about spiritual awakening. I thought I would create today's episode on this topic because a few years ago, I didn't even know that I was going through a spiritual awakening until I looked back a few years later. It wasn't something that was in my awareness. It wasn't something that was in my vocabulary. I didn't know. So, to help you to avoid you from sitting there and saying, I don't know what the F is going on, maybe this episode will help you. Essentially, a spiritual awakening is when you start to question everything you've ever known. When life as you know it starts shifting in all areas, almost like a massive upheaval or like a midlife crisis almost. You're looking for something more, and life as you know it just doesn't cut it anymore. It can affect you physically, emotionally, spiritually, of course, and physically. Did I say physically? I'm pretty sure I did. Physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually is what I meant to say. So let's break down the signs of a spiritual awakening. And because I'm a list person, my brain needs to have these different sections. Otherwise, I'm going to bounce back and forth, and that doesn't sound like a very organized episode. So let's start with physical manifestations of a spiritual awakening. Now, of course, there could be valid health concerns behind these, so I do encourage you to seek out professional medical advice if you're experiencing or concerned by any of these symptoms. I have to throw that little disclosure out there. So let's get started with physical manifestations that you could experience if you are going through a spiritual awakening. There's bloating, joint pain, muscle pain. Some people even claim to experience sore teeth during their awakening, rapid weight gain, water retention, constantly exhausted without any real reason why. Or you may find that you're either sleeping really well and having very vivid dreams, which was never really a thing for you in the past, or you're sleeping less, or you're waking up at the same time every single night, like 3:33 in the morning. You could be experiencing pain in the legs. And I came across a theory on the pain in the legs, which I don't know, makes sense in my world, so I'll share it just in case. The reason this is a symptom is because your legs are literally trying to hold you up while it's dealing with all the energy around you that is shifting. So your legs go into your root chakra, which is about your foundation. I mean, among other things, but when your foundation is shifted, it makes sense to me that your legs and the area around your root chakra, which is at the base of your spine, is also affected. So if everything around you is kind of going AWOL, your legs are really struggling to kind of keep you in place. So I think that is why our legs get really, really sore sometimes when we're going through an awakening. But that's not all. There are more physical symptoms. There is back pain, lightheadedness, digestive issues, depression and anxiety. You may be suddenly very aware of your body and how it's feeling. And Not just in terms of physical discomfort, but you may suddenly feel like you need to change your diet, to eat clean, to really pay attention to what you're putting into your body. You're willing to and want to make positive changes in your body. And I know that that was a super long list. And honestly, I cringe when I talk about physical manifestations in terms of energy blockages because the lists are usually pretty long and there could be so many different reasons for the physical manifestations. So sometimes I feel like a bit of a goof when someone's like, oh yeah, my low back hurts. And it's like, oh, well, have you checked out the energy around your chakras? Because it's probably why your back is hurting. And they're like, no, it's probably not why my back is hurting. Like, I have a slip disc or, whatever. There's so many reasons behind why our body hurts. And personally, I think we've all been trained to think that there is a medical reason and not really brought into our awareness that there could be much more to it. So I do hope that we still consider the possible medical implications that come along with physical manifestations, physical pain or discomfort in our body. And hopefully we don't just use spiritual awakening or shifts in energy as the only reason why you have low back pain or digestive issues. I don't even know if that sentence made sense. I really don't, but I'm just going to keep talking anyway. So I don't want you to jump conclusions, is what I'm trying to say, and say you're having back pain or digestive issues and assume it's because of an awakening and therefore completely ignore the issue and don't seek medical attention. And as much as I'm a spiritual and intuitive person, I don't think it's an excuse to ignore our health. Apparently, I all of a sudden can't talk either, so bear with me. Apparently, it's going to be a fun episode. But if you are experiencing any of these physical manifestations that I just mentioned, as well as some of these other symptoms that I'm going to get into, then it's pretty likely that it's due to a spiritual awakening. Let's get into the emotional side of things. I did mention depression, anxiety, and I do think it kind of needs to be in both categories, the physical manifestation, the emotional side of things, because it does play a part in all aspects, I feel. You may already notice, I don't know, an increase in anxiety. You may notice that you're feeling very introverted and secluding yourself. Those are pretty good signs of a spiritual awakening. You could be feeling vulnerable and very judgmental of yourself, especially if this is all new to you. I know when I was first getting started into this oracle and tarot card world, like that was my first step into the spiritual awakening without even really realizing it. I was super judgy of myself and hid that part of myself away for such a long time. I didn't want to talk to anybody about it, including my husband, and I pretty much tell him anything to the point where it's like our conversations are way too TMI. But I was feeling so vulnerable and I didn't understand what was going on. And the last thing I wanted to do was try to put into words what I was going through or what I was feeling to someone who had never experienced it themselves. So I just kind of shut that all off. So you could very well be feeling vulnerable and judgmental and just wanting to shut yourself off from that or from everyone else around you just because you're assuming that they won't understand. You could find that you're very easily frustrated or short tempered. You could be feeling lonely. You could be feeling, and this is probably like was and sometimes still is one of like my strongest sensations and the kick in the pants when I'm going through an awakening is this feeling of homesickness almost. I don't even know if that's the right word, but it's like you can't feel settled. You feel like you don't belong anywhere. You're having a hard time connecting with other people. It's like a full on fish out of water experience. And it could be something that has slowly kind of been trickling in Or you could just all of a sudden wake up and be like, what the F? Your best friend, suddenly you're keeping them at a distance because you're feeling like you guys aren't really on the same page, or you don't really want to talk to your spouse, or you feel like your mom is just like, don't even get me started on talking to my mom. Like you're having a hard time connecting to people and you can't put your finger on it. And you really feel like there's so much more that should be happening in your life. And now you're disappointed because you can't figure it out, but you also can't vocalize what it is that's happening. I hope that makes sense. But this intense feeling of homesickness tends to be a very strong symptom of a spiritual awakening. And not just for me, just like in general. So let's move on to the next section. And I'm not very good at titles, so I don't even know what to call this one. So let's just say the changes in your mental state section. And by that, I mean, I know I said feeling almost like you're going through a midlife crisis, but also feeling like spacey, like you're in La La Land, or constantly reliving old memories that you'd forgotten about, or reliving old wounds. It's almost like you are intentionally reliving all that crap, but you don't know why. But you know that you have to. I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain, but these things just keep coming up on repeat over and over and over, and you're like, the hell, I haven't thought of that in years. And now you're dissecting it, but you might be having a hard time like dissecting it beginning to end because there's a lot of inner work involved with reliving and healing those old wounds. You may feel like time is speeding up. All of a sudden, your days and weeks feel like they're flying by, and it's kind of feeling like a whirlwind around you. You may suddenly have this extremely strong, intense desire to be free. Free from everything, free from your job, free from your day to day responsibilities, free from things that are suddenly weighing you down or have been weighing you down, and you just either weren't aware of it or weren't ready to admit it. Things that are no longer making you happy. You just want to just cut the cord and start new. You, I'm pretty sure I said this in the beginning, are going to start questioning everything that you knew to be true. For example, I don't know, commercials. You might, or the news. There's that whole, I'm going to say it's new, but it's really not new. I'm just so delayed in life. This whole fake news thing. Before, let's just say, I don't know, 5 years ago, you would have been watching the news and not really put any extra thought into it. You would have just accepted what you were being told. And now you are you're either reading in between the lines, or you just have this feeling that what you're being told is complete BS. And this doesn't have to be the news. This could literally be anything. I'm just using the news as an easy example. But you are no longer so accepting of what is being told to you, and you're starting to question everything that you thought to be true and trying to find the real answers behind them. You might start to notice that there is so much more than what meets the eye, and will start to understand how much your thoughts have an impact on your life and your circumstances. You're seriously going to start being drawn to gratitude and manifesting, and just really being aware of how things are impacted when you focus on the negative or the positive, because obviously there's positive aspects to thinking positive. When you are starting to look for answers, you're going to start looking for the meaning of everything. And if you can't find the meaning, you're just going to stop giving it your time and attention. You might be like a die-hard CNN fan, and now all of a sudden, because it's not satisfying you anymore, you're just gonna stop. You're just gonna not care anymore. You are going to be amazed at the things you don't care about anymore. The things that you have just been doing day to day because you've just adopted it as a routine without questioning it, and now you're like, what the hell am I doing? You're going to want and need more alone time, especially alone time outdoors. And you're going to come to appreciate and even crave this time alone. And the alone time outdoors is so grounding and peaceful. And that's why I say you're going to crave it, because especially if you're having this homesick feeling, being outside, I don't know, there's something about being outside when you have that homesick feeling that makes you feel grounded to the earth and kind of helps you feel more connected to like a life purpose or soul purpose. Even if you don't know what it is, you just feel this assurance that everything is going to be okay. You are going to start to most likely pull away from social media or technology as a whole because you'd much rather be alone or be with those that you're closest to and you really want to enjoy their company and live in the moment instead of caring so much about what's happening in the outside world. You're going to start to become more open minded and accepting of new beliefs and other people's beliefs. This isn't to say you're going to start accepting or adopting these beliefs, but you're now willing to see them from a new perspective. You may find that you are feeling very drawn to personal development, from books to blogs, like my own at theintuitivewife.com, shameless plug, to things like, I don't know, Gaia TV, for example. You're just going to feel like you're on this journey to learn so much more, and you just want to soak in as much information as you possibly can. You might even find that you're drawn to the metaphysical or the occult. You may find that you are much less interested in arguing with people or proving that you're right. You no longer care about ego-driven conversations or drama, and you're going to find that you just don't want to spend the energy on these things anymore. You'll know that you're going through a spiritual awakening when you notice yourself start becoming more open to things that you never knew existed, or things that you'd close yourself off from. For example, the beginning of my spiritual awakening was triggered by the Oracle and Tarot cards. I'd always been fascinated by tarot cards as a kid. Never really paid them much attention, but if it ever came up in conversation or if I ever saw them, I don't know, sitting on a shelf, I'd be like, "Ooh, what's that? That looks cool." But I would never like touch them or want to learn how to do it. It was just something that I was drawn to. I didn't even know oracle cards existed until a few years ago. Somehow I always knew tarot cards existed. I don't even know how that's possible. I would spend hours on weekends trying to understand oracle cards and tarot cards and what the difference is and how to use them and what's the point of them, all while not even putting any thought into why I was suddenly obsessed. But that's an example of you becoming more open to things that you never knew existed or you'd close yourself off from. And you might not even give it a second thought. You're just like, I need to know. I need to know. And you're just going to do it without questioning it. You might even notice repetitive patterns or cycles that you've been repeating. And these could be unhealthy patterns or patterns that you haven't learned the lesson from. And I think this is one of the biggest triggers that a lot of people decide that they need a past life regression session. It's because they're ready to stop repeating history, but they want to understand where it all started and why it all started so that they can put an end to it and heal those wounds and start fresh and stop reliving those patterns. So, as you can see, there's a crazy long list of symptoms. But one of the reasons it's so long is because everyone's experience is so different. Everyone's experience is so unique, like us. I cringe saying that, it sounds so corny. Some people say that a spiritual awakening is a beautiful experience. And yeah, maybe when you're done and you look back years later, you realize the beauty and perfection of it. But when you're in the thick of it, it is complete and utter shit. Garbage. You're miserable. Yes, you learn new habits like meditation or yoga or eating better or even listening to your body. For example, you might have learned that when you get a headache, a Tylenol or Advil or whatever, I don't even know. I don't even know what the drugs are on the shelf. You might start to learn that that is not what your body is asking for when it has a headache. Maybe it's talking to you and telling you that it's dehydrated, you haven't had enough water yet today. But when you're feeling vulnerable and sore and tired and cranky and miserable and confused every single day, it's hard to see the beauty in that. In my opinion, there are pros to having a spiritual awakening. Like how I just said, understanding your body, listening to it and knowing when it's talking to you and what it's saying. There's learning to get in touch with your angels and guides. There's developing your intuition. And those last two, they were huge for me. But if it wasn't for me digging deeper into oracle cards and tarot cards, I wouldn't have trusted myself enough to use those as a tool to connect to angels and guides and my intuition. Like that really was the starting point for me. And now I literally talk to my angels and guides every single day. So I really can't imagine now going back and not having this part of me in my life or not having that support system in my life because I really do truly lean on my angels and guides a lot. Like I'm pretty sure when I die and go back to the spirit world, they're gonna be like, "Holy shit, you really made us fucking work for it." I'd be like, "Yeah, yeah, I did." But realizing that you're always completely supported by your angels and guides and ancestors, I find that's a huge pro too. Because just because you can't see them doesn't mean that they're not there and they aren't always communicating with you. Another pro is self awareness. I don't know, whether that's through journaling or yoga or meditation. I think there's something to be said for someone who takes the time to truly learn who they are and accept themselves just as they are. Because let's be real, society really sucks nowadays. You need to be that 00 airbrushed looking person in order to feel like the rest of the world views you as beautiful. And obviously, there is way more to beauty than being a 00. And yes, some people really just naturally are 00, but some people really work hard for that 00 or even size 5. And it's not the reason for you to be here. It's not for you to look like that ridiculously skinny person on the cover of the magazine. In my opinion, it's to get in touch with yourself, to learn who you are, to learn what your purpose is, and to understand how this world works in terms of energy, such as universal energy or support from the angels and guides and ancestors. Like, I really think that that is a huge component as to why we're here. But who knows? I mean, what do I know? Who knows? One of the pros is, I'm pretty sure I just said this, trusting your intuition and your intuitive or psychic abilities. Like, I really think that starts to come naturally once you are going through the spiritual awakening and have actually let your guard down and just surrendered. And trust me, letting your guard down and surrendering is not easy. At least it sure as hell wasn't easy for me. But once you cross that bridge, oh, and that's not to say that once you let go and surrender that you have done this now, like the rest of your life, you will have let go and surrendered. Like every day is literally a constant battle. Today you could wake up, be like, okay, I surrender. Like I'm letting go. Whatever's gonna happen is gonna happen. And tomorrow you wake up, you're like, no, fuck that. I need to have some control. Like everyone back up and just it's not an easy thing to do, and it's not something that you're going to be able to do every single day. And I think that's something that people don't really talk about. They're just like, trust the universe, everything will be great. Just let go. Just go with the flow. And yeah, it's not that they're wrong, it's true. But figuring out how to do it and then doing it again and again and again, that my friend is a challenge. I feel like I keep rambling off into little tangents. Let me get back to my notes here and see where I left off. Pros of a spiritual awakening. Finding you're getting close to your life purpose or soul purpose. To me, it's the same thing. I use words interchangeably, whatever makes you happy. Learning about beliefs that you weren't aware of, or having a deeper understanding of the metaphysical world. I cannot say that word today. Metaphysical world or the occult. And something kind of dawned on me when I wrote that down is that I think there's a lot of history in the occult. And I think because of, I'll call it recent history of the witch trials, that there has been like this fear instilled in us, like deep down into our being, where we're either super drawn to, let's just say, witchcraft, or we resist it hard, like hard. And I'm not saying that either way is right or wrong, but when I wrote that point down, I realized that, in my opinion, we've all been or we've all descended from witches or healers or seers or medicine women or shaman healers. And I think that there's something special about learning more about the ways of our ancestors. And I mean, you can see witchcraft as evil or not, but when I say metaphysical or the occult, like I obviously mean more than witchcraft. It could be shamanism, for example, just because it's the first thing that came to mind afterwards. But I think and not to say that you have to adopt those beliefs, but I think having a deeper understanding of it really helps us to feel more connected to, what's the word? Our ancestral ties. I don't know. There I go. Rambling again with random thoughts. um, back to pros, a spiritual awakening. I think a huge pro is that you learn to come from, and I say you learn to do this, but again, a daily struggle. You learn to come from a place of love and realizing that there really isn't a need for constant competition, and that there's room for us to all shine our own light and be our own people. And I think once we realize that, and once we drop the judgment, not only on ourselves but on other people, I think that makes everything a little bit easier. Now, a spiritual awakening tends to happen multiple times. It's not a one and done kind of thing, as much as I wish it was. Once you've learned everything that you're meant to learn and you've adopted everything that you're meant to adopt, then what fun would it be to continue doing that for the rest of your life? It is time for things to be shaken up again, and you get to go through another awakening. Sometimes it's bigger and harder than the last one. Sometimes it's not. But in my experience, the more we have, not necessarily the easier it gets, but the more awareness we have. So, speaking from experience, the first one I had was brutal because I didn't know what was happening. I didn't understand. I didn't know how to put into words. I was just like, life is crap, and I don't understand why life is crap, and I don't know how to fix it. But in my most recent experience this summer, yeah, it still kicked my ass, but I had already set a foundation almost. Like I pretty much journal every single day. So going through my newest awakening, I knew from experience of what happens when I don't journal that I really needed to amp it up, even if I didn't feel like it. I needed to keep journaling. I needed to keep relying on my angels and guides, talking to them whenever I wanted to, whenever I felt like I needed to. And because I already had that in my awareness and in my daily routine, I was able to rely on it, and it was able to make things easier for me. And I think something that a lot of people tend to ignore when they're having or going through a spiritual awakening is the importance of a support system. And I totally get it when this is your very first one, because I mean, like I said, I shut everyone out. I couldn't put into words what was happening. I didn't understand, and I was super judgy of myself and super vulnerable. But I really think having that support system makes things so much easier. So this time around, I was able to have, even though it was small, but that was my choice, to have that support system. I was able to talk things out, and that made things easier for me this time around than the first time around. And I know it sounds so cliche and so lame, but I'm going to say it anyways. One or some of the best ways to get through a spiritual awakening is to just breathe. And like, I want to punch myself in the face for just saying that. To breathe, to stay grounded as much as possible, and to be patient with yourself. These awakenings are usually a long process, and they can be pretty difficult. Listen to your body. If you need to sleep, go take a nap, go to sleep, go to bed early. There's a lot of shifting happening. There's a lot going on around you, from physical, mental, spiritual, emotional. Your relationships are changing, your body's changing, your life dynamics are changing. There's a lot going on. It's only natural that your body is going to need and want more energy to help you get through this. And what is the best way to get energy? To go to sleep so you can refill your tank and be ready for a new day. And I'm not saying that breathing and staying grounded and being patient is easy. Like, no, we all know that it's not. But it's probably the best advice I can give you between that and having a support system. Like, I don't know of and have never heard of an easy way to get through it. And it sucks, and I'm sorry if you're going through it, and I'm sorry that my advice is shit. I would love to give you surefire ways to get through your spiritual awakening, but I can't. And everyone is different, and everyone's situation is different. So that's my advice: to have a support system, to breathe, to stay grounded as much as possible, to be patient with yourself. And a support system, it doesn't have to be your close friends and family if you don't want it to. There are tons of ways to get or to create a support system. You can attend local meetups or a spiritual church or attend groups in your community. Like sometimes someone hosts a meditation circle, for example. Go check it out. You might find that there's someone there that you just click with. You might learn something new. You might get the support that you need to actually start meditating, because when you do it by yourself, it's just too overwhelming and you get pissed off at yourself and frustrated because you can't shut up your mind. There's also Facebook groups, which I find helpful because I'm an introvert, because I can just linger and hang back there in the shadows and stay back a bit until I get the feel for the group and the people in it. And then once you've done that, then you'll know if you want to start asking questions in there, if there's someone that you're feeling drawn to, like maybe someone's energy, you're just like, this person's cool. I want to be their friend. Speaking of Facebook groups, I do host a Facebook group called The Spiritual Apprentice if you're interested in checking it out. We talk about manifesting and meditation and energy healing, the metaphysical, pretty much anything that comes up in conversation. If it sounds like something that you want to check out, then head over to the show notes and click on the link to be redirected to join the group. I'm curious to know if you are going through or have recently gone through a spiritual awakening and what your experience was like. Head on over to the Spiritual Apprentice or find me on Instagram at The Intuitive Wife and tag me to tell me what you've recently gone through or what you're currently going through in terms of your awakening. Or if you're listening on Anchor, send me one of those fancy voice messages. I don't even know what they're called, but if you don't want to type it all out, send me one of those. That's cool too. I hope you found this episode helpful, and I really hope it has brought some clarity to your current situation or recent experience. And just know that so many of us have gone through at least one spiritual awakening, so you're definitely not alone. There are so many of us here on standby, ready to help you through this if you need it. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week, and I will talk to you guys in the next episode. Have a great day.
Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to the next episode of the Spiritual Uprising podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Campbell from theintuitivewife.com. And today's episode is about what to do when you feel disconnected from your angels and guides. I don't plan for this to be a super long episode, so I'm going to apologize in advance if it feels like I'm just going to fly through it. But if you guys end up having any questions or comments about what I have to say in today's episode, feel free to, if you're on Anchor, send me a voice message or something, or head on over to my Facebook group, The Spiritual Uprising. Nope. Head on over to my Facebook group, The Spiritual... Hey guys, what's up? Welcome to the next episode of the Spiritual Uprising podcast. I'm your host, Amanda Campbell from theintuitivewife.com. And today's episode is about what to do when you feel disconnected from your angels and guides. Now, maybe you're new to connecting to your angels and guides and you're struggling and starting to wonder if this is just all a big fat lie. Or maybe you've been connecting to your angels and guides regularly, but lately you've been feeling distant and you're having a hard time feeling like you're truly connected to your spirit team. This happens to the best of us. And I'm going to start by saying I truly feel like this has nothing to do with experience. It's happened to me several times. It can happen if you're a newbie. It can happen if you've been doing it for the past 20 years. Shit happens. What I find is the biggest reason that we feel disconnected or, go through a lull is because the main reason is because of ego. No matter how hard we try, there are always days when our ego seems to take over. It's just part of the human experience. When our ego is taking over regularly, especially when you're trying to connect, it's going to be pretty close to impossible to connect to your team. So let's say you're trying to call on them, and as you're, trying to call them, all of a sudden you get this voice in your head, angels and guides don't really exist. Or even worse, like something talking down to you, like, I don't know why you bother calling your angels and guides. Like, they're not going to help you. You suck. Something along those lines. If there is that voice that keeps telling you that what you're doing is a waste of time, then it's not that your angels and guides can't hear you, and it's not that they're not communicating with you. It's that that voice is kind of winning over and almost like causing interference between that communication between you and your guides. So when we are coming from a place of ego, it is very, very, very difficult, which leads me to what I think is the second reason of why we struggle sometimes to connect to our angels and guides, and that is because of self-care. If we are not taking care of ourselves, and whether that is eating habits or self-care or not getting enough sleep or always putting others in front of us, if we're not making ourselves a priority, then it's difficult to get into that space of connection, I guess is what I'll call it. So when our ego is running interference, then what we should do is go into that self-care space where we're tuning into ourselves, maybe a short little meditation. But if our ego is running interference and we're not taking care of ourselves, not quieting our mind, shutting off that mind chatter, tuning into ourselves and to our spirit team, then it's going to be really difficult to hear or see the messages that are, I don't think I've ever called them spirit team before, but apparently that's just the words that are coming out of my mouth today. So it's going to be difficult to hear or see what they are trying to say to you or show you. So basically, it's not them, it's us. Or it's not, fuck. So that cringeworthy line when you're breaking up with someone, it's not you, it's me. That's basically the same thing when it comes to talking to your angels and guides. It's not them, it's us. Our angels and guides are always around us. Some are always like literally glued to us, and others, kind of come and go depending on where we are in our life. But regardless of where they are and where you are in your life, they are always available to come help you. That is part of the reason of why they are here, is for you to call on them and to them to help you and guide you and push you in the right direction, or nudge you and show you these little signs that you need to know so that you can move forward with ease. And we just tend to make things harder on ourselves. and and of course, when ego is in full force and when our self-care is not the greatest, then we tend to get into this state of expectation where you're asking for something, or you're trying to connect with them and you are expecting them to deliver a specific thing in a specific way. So once we're in that state of expectation, it's not that our angels and guides aren't talking to us, it's that we're almost like in tunnel vision. So here's an example. When we were looking for a house, I don't know, I think it was like 2 or 3 years ago, I had said to the universe that when I am looking for houses, you will tell me that it's the right house for me to buy or put an offer in by showing me a blue jay. That's my thing. Blue jays are my thing. They are my signs from the universe that I'm doing the right thing or I'm on the right path or whatever along those lines. So at that time, I didn't see blue jays very often. So I'm like, obviously, this is going to stick out like a sore thumb. So I even told my husband, like, this is the sign that we're looking for. If you see a blue jay, tell me. But the thing is, I can ask to see a blue jay. That does not mean that a blue jay is going to fly in front of my face to tell me that this is the house. It could be in a painting, it could be a statue, it could be one of those, I don't even know what they're called, like collector plates that people put on display for reasons I don't understand. But what I'm saying is that blue jays can come to you in so many different ways. So if you are speaking to your angels and guides, you're like, I really need a sign, or I really need you to tell me what the right answer is. If you're expecting it to come to you in a specific way, then you're going to miss the message. So the point of this whole spiel is to drop the expectation and kind of lose the tunnel vision. Widen your, what's the word I want to use? Widen your range of vision, I think is what I'm trying to say. So when we are stuck in our tunnel vision, if I was looking for that house and I was expecting to see a physical bird in front of me, I would have been very disappointed, because for that entire hunt, which was probably like 3 or 4 months long, not once did I see a physical blue jay in front of me, or flying in the backyard, or, crossing our path when we were driving the car. Not once. It was always, I would see blue jays, but it was always in a different way from how I expected to see it. So if you are stuck in that expectation, then you're not going to see the messages or hear the messages that your angels and guides are giving you. And then you're going to think that you're disconnected from them. They're not listening to you. They have fallen off the face of the earth and you are here alone. And that is never, ever, 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 ever the case. They're always here with you. It's just us getting out of our own heads and widening our range of vision so that we can see and hear the messages that they are trying to send to us. So if you are feeling disconnected from your angels and guides, your spirit team in general, please know that they are still there with you. They are still listening to you. You just need to take a step back a little bit. Go take a nice meditation. Go take care of yourself, whether it's a bubble bath or a hot shower or a yoga class, and just kind of chill for a bit. Because another thing that we do is, I need a message and I need it right now. And we're like, okay, where is it? Like, it's been 10 minutes, I haven't gotten my message, which I guess kind of falls into expectation, because now not only are you expecting something to be delivered to you, but you're expecting it to be delivered within a certain time frame. And that the time frame is out of your control. So sitting there and waiting and staring at the clock, and I'm like, shit, I haven't got my message yet. Like, they can't hear me. They're not listening. That isn't being disconnected. That is you being stuck in expectation. So take a step back. And I know I said that already, but sometimes you need to say something over and over and over before it finally sinks in. So that honestly is today's episode. If you are feeling disconnected, if you're wondering where they are, what is going on, why you can't hear or see them, then it is because you need to get out of ego, take better care of yourself, and drop expectation. And when I had said expand your range of vision, I'm using vision like as, I don't know what's the word, metaphorically. Because if you are expecting, or usually receive messages through clairaudience, so you're hearing the message. In this case, they may not be able to deliver the message in that way. It might need to be in a street sign this time. You might need to actually like see it physically with your eyes. You might need to, I was gonna say overhear it, but that's also auditory, isn't it? Just because you are used to receiving the messages in one way doesn't mean you're going to never ever receive messages in another way. So if you're not open to receiving messages in multiple ways, in whatever way the angels and guides are trying to communicate with you, then it's not that you're going to shut it off, you're going to completely miss out on the messages that they're giving you, and then you're going to start to think that you are disconnected. So from here on out, try your best to get out of your ego, take better care of yourself, get out of the space of expectation, and invite your guides back in. Since your guides are always with you, it is not unusual to say to them, like, hey, are you still here? Like, I feel like you've just abandoned me. What is going on? You can absolutely talk to them, invite them back in, and once you start paying attention to the multiple ways that they can send you messages, you'll start to see that you're really not as alone as you think you are. So I hope you found this helpful. I know it was a super quick episode, and so that's it for today. I hope you found it helpful. If you have any questions or comments, because I feel like I kind of flew through this today, feel free to head on over to anchor.fm, I think it is. Send me a voice message or head on over to my Facebook group, The Spiritual Apprentice. I am open to questions or comments about this episode, or even suggestions on things that you want to hear, something that you're struggling with and you need a little bit of help with. I would love to try and help you in any way that I can. So until my next episode, I hope you guys have a great day, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.